The Philippines, a land of over 7,000 islands, where history intertwines with the present in remarkable ways. Did you know this nation has been a silent witness to some of the most pivotal moments in human history? From ancient migrations to the rise and fall of empires, every chapter of its story reveals a fascinating connection to the world. Beyond its natural beauty lies a tale of resilience and unity. The Philippines has endured waves of colonization, revolutions, and global challenges, leaving a legacy that continues to shape the nation's identity today. But what secrets are hidden in its past? How did ancient kingdoms thrive before foreign influences arrived? What lessons does the Philippines offer about our modern world? By connecting history to the present, we uncover the stories that define not just a country, but humanity itself. Prepare to embark on a journey through time and discover how the past of the Philippines remains deeply relevant to the challenges and triumphs of today. The story of the Philippines begins tens of thousands of years ago with the arrival of its first inhabitants. Archaeological discoveries, like the Tabanman remains in Palawan, date human presence in the archipelago back over 40,000 years. These early settlers faced a challenging environment but used remarkable ingenuity to thrive. They crafted tools, hunted game, and adapted to the ever-changing landscapes of the islands. The true transformation came with the arrival of Austronesian settlers. Around 4,000 years ago, these skilled seafarers traveled across the Pacific, bringing with them advanced knowledge of navigation, agriculture, and trade. Did you know they used the stars and ocean currents to navigate vast distances, long before modern instruments were invented? These settlers introduced rice farming, which became the foundation of early Philippine society. One of the most unique aspects of their culture was the balangay, a wooden boat that symbolized their maritime prowess. This boat wasn't just a mode of transport, it was a symbol of unity and community. The word barangay still refers to local villages in the Philippines today, showing how ancient practices remain part of the nation's identity. But life wasn't limited to small villages. Communities grew, forming barangays led by local chieftains called datus. These leaders were respected not for their wealth but for their wisdom and ability to unite people. What would happen as these communities began interacting with neighboring regions? The answer lies in the rise of trade and cultural exchange. By the 10th century, the Philippines had become a vital player in Asian trade. Positioned strategically along key maritime routes, it acted as a gateway between the vast empires of China, India, and the Malay kingdoms. This geographic advantage transformed the archipelago into a thriving hub of commerce, where goods like spices, silk, and ceramics were exchanged. But trade was about more than goods. It was a channel for the exchange of ideas, beliefs, and technologies. Chinese porcelain, Indian influences, and Arab trade connections helped shape the culture of the islands. Early Filipinos didn't just adopt these influences. They blended them with their own traditions to create something uniquely Filipino. For instance, the use of baybayin, an ancient script, is believed to have been influenced by Indian writing systems. Have you ever wondered how such a script could still inspire pride and curiosity today? One particularly fascinating site is the Kingdom of Tondo. Located near present-day Manila, it was a bustling trading center where local rulers oversaw commerce with foreign merchants. Imagine the vibrant scenes. Boats arriving from China loaded with silk, traders negotiating over spices, and local artisans crafting goods for export. Trade didn't just bring prosperity, it also planted seeds for future conflict. As the archipelago gained prominence, it caught the attention of powerful empires seeking control over these lucrative trade routes. What happens when ambition meets opportunity? This question sets the stage for the arrival of Spain and the profound changes it brought. In 1521, the Spanish explorer Ferdinand Magellan arrived on the shores of Cebu, marking the beginning of Spain's quest to conquer the Philippines. Magellan's arrival wasn't just a voyage of discovery, it was part of a grander plan to expand Spain's empire and spread Christianity. But this initial encounter didn't go as planned. Did you know Magellan was killed by Lapu-Lapu, a local chieftain who refused to submit to foreign rule? The Battle of Mactan is remembered as a symbol of Filipino resistance. Despite this, Spain returned with greater force decades later. In 1565, Miguel López de Legazpi successfully established the first Spanish settlement in Cebu. Over the next century, Spain gradually imposed its rule over the archipelago, bringing with it significant changes. The Spanish introduced Catholicism, which reshaped the spiritual and cultural identity of the islands. Churches and cathedrals, like the San Agustin Church in Manila, became symbols of this transformation. But how did the local population respond to this sudden shift in power and belief? Some accepted the new faith and governance, while others resisted fiercely. The Spanish didn't conquer the Philippines overnight. It was a slow and often brutal process. What is less discussed, however, is how Filipinos found ways to preserve their identity even under colonization. As Spanish rule tightened its grip, a new chapter began to unfold, one that revolved around the lucrative Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. For over 250 years, the Philippines became a crucial link in one of the earliest forms of globalization, the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. This trade route connected Asia, the Americas, and Europe, turning the Philippines into a melting pot of cultures and economies. Imagine this. Goods like Chinese silk and porcelain were loaded onto Spanish galleons in Manila, transported across the Pacific to Mexico, and then sent to Europe. In return, silver from the Americas flowed back to Asia, fueling a vibrant trade network. This period was a double-edged sword for the Philippines. While the trade brought economic benefits and introduced new goods and ideas, it also came at a cost. The local population bore the brunt of forced labor under the Polo y Servicio system, which required Filipinos to work on Spanish ships or build infrastructure for colonial rule. Did you know the galleon trade also led to cultural exchanges that shaped Filipino cuisine, art, and traditions? For example, chocolate, hot chocolate, and Baroque-style religious art are legacies of this era. But with these influences came inequality, as wealth was concentrated in the hands of Spanish elites. As the galleon trade declined in the 19th century, the seeds of Filipino nationalism began to sprout. The people's discontent with colonial exploitation and inequality set the stage for revolutionary movements that would challenge Spain's control. How did these sparks of resistance evolve into a full-blown revolution? The 19th century marked a turning point in Philippine history. After centuries of colonial rule, Filipinos began questioning their subjugation under Spanish authorities. This period saw the emergence of the ilustrado class, educated Filipinos who had studied in Europe and were exposed to ideas of freedom, equality, and democracy. Figures like José Rizal, Marcelo H. del Pilar, and Graciano López Jaena became prominent voices of change. Rizal's novels, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, highlighted the injustices suffered by Filipinos under Spanish rule. These works didn't just inspire hope, they ignited a national consciousness. Did you know that Rizal's execution in 1896 would later become a rallying point for the Philippine Revolution? But change didn't come solely from intellectuals. Everyday Filipinos, tired of exploitation and oppression, were ready to fight. The Katipunan, a secret revolutionary society led by Andres Bonifacio, sought independence through armed struggle. The group's rallying cry, Galleon, or freedom, echoed in the hearts of many. The revolution was more than a fight against colonial rule, it was a fight for dignity, identity, and self-determination. But revolutions rarely unfold as planned. What challenges did these early movements face as they stood against the might of the Spanish Empire? The answers lay in the first battles that would shape the course of the revolution. In 1896, the Philippine Revolution erupted, a testament to the courage and resilience of a people long denied their freedom. Led by the Katipunan under Andres Bonifacio, Filipinos took up arms against Spanish forces. Battles raged across Luzon, with victories inspiring hope and defeats testing the revolutionaries' resolve. One of the most pivotal moments was the cry of Pugad Laon, where Bonifacio and his followers tore their cédulas, tax documents, symbolizing their rejection of Spanish rule. It was a bold declaration of independence that electrified the nation. But as the revolution gained momentum, internal divisions began to surface. Did you know that leadership disputes led to a tragic power struggle between Bonifacio and Emilio Aguinaldo? Bonifacio's eventual execution by his own countrymen remains one of the most controversial chapters in Philippine history. Despite these setbacks, the revolution pressed on, culminating in Aguinaldo declaring Philippine independence on June 12, 1898. But independence was short-lived. As the Spanish era ended, a new foreign power loomed on the horizon. The Treaty of Paris, signed later that year, transferred control of the Philippines to the United States without Filipino consent. What would this new era of foreign rule bring to a nation yearning for true freedom? As the 19th century came to a close, the Philippines found itself under the shadow of a new colonizer, the United States. The Treaty of Paris in 1898, signed without Filipino representation, marked the end of Spain's rule but transferred control to America. Initially, Filipinos believed the United States would support their independence. After all, didn't the Americans themselves fight for freedom against colonial rule? But this hope was short-lived. The Philippine-American War broke out in 1899, lasting for over 3 grueling years. It was a brutal conflict, with American forces employing scorched earth tactics and committing atrocities, including the infamous Balangiga massacre. Did you know that over 200,000 Filipino civilians died during this war? Despite the overwhelming odds, the Filipinos fought fiercely, showcasing their unyielding desire for self-determination. Under U.S. rule, the Philippines underwent significant changes. The education system was overhauled, public health initiatives were introduced, and infrastructure projects were launched. But these advancements came at a cost. The Filipino elite benefited disproportionately, while the majority remained in poverty. This era is a testament to both resilience and the complex nature of colonial legacies. How did Filipinos balance modernization with their aspirations for independence? The answer lies in the growing movement for national sovereignty, which would finally bear fruit in the mid-20th century. The first half of the 20th century was a time of political awakening and struggle for the Philippines. Under American rule, Filipinos were gradually given more political power. The Jones Law of 1916 was a milestone, promising eventual independence. But did you know that independence remained a distant dream for decades? World War II became the ultimate turning point. The Japanese invasion in 1941 plunged the Philippines into another brutal occupation. The Battle of Bataan and the subsequent Bataan Death March stand as harrowing reminders of the sacrifices made by Filipino and American forces. Despite the hardships, guerrilla resistance flourished, keeping the spirit of freedom alive. After the war, the Philippines was left devastated, yet its resolve was unshaken. On July 4, 1946, the United States finally granted the Philippines independence. The ceremony was both a moment of triumph and a bittersweet reminder of the long road it took to get there. But independence was just the beginning of a new set of challenges. What did sovereignty mean in a world reshaped by war and global politics? The next chapter in the Philippines' history reveals the trials and triumphs of a young nation finding its place on the global stage. Independence came with high hopes, but the reality of nation-building brought significant challenges for the Philippines. The country's early years as a republic were marked by political instability, economic struggles, and the task of rebuilding from the devastation of World War II. President Manuel Roxas, the first leader of the independent Philippines, faced the daunting task of setting the country on a stable course. Did you know that one of the first major hurdles was dealing with the economic dependence on the United States? The Bell Trade Act, passed in 1946, tied the Philippines to unequal trade agreements that heavily favored American interests. The act also granted U.S. citizens and corporations special rights to exploit the country's natural resources. This sparked debates about whether true independence had been achieved. Meanwhile, rural unrest brewed as peasants called for land reform and better living conditions. The Hukbalahap movement, which had initially fought against the Japanese during World War II, became a powerful force advocating for agrarian rights. The government's crackdown on the Huks led to further polarization, exposing deep-seated inequalities in Philippine society. Despite these struggles, the early republic also saw efforts to create a national identity and strengthen democratic institutions. The question lingered. Could the Philippines navigate these obstacles to build a prosperous and unified nation? The Cold War era would bring even more complexities to this unfolding story. The election of Ferdinand Marcos in 1965 marked a pivotal and polarizing chapter in Philippine history. Initially, Marcos was celebrated for his ambitious vision to modernize the country. Infrastructure projects like roads, bridges, and schools were launched under his administration, earning him praise as a transformative leader. However, behind the facade of progress lurked growing discontent. Did you know that Marcos declared martial law in 1972, claiming it was necessary to suppress communist threats and restore order? This period, however, was marked by widespread human rights abuses, media censorship, and the concentration of power in the hands of the Marcos family. The military and police were used to silence dissent, and thousands of activists were imprisoned or disappeared. While the regime boasted economic growth, much of it was fueled by foreign loans, leaving the country in staggering debt. The infamous lavish lifestyle of the Marcoses, symbolized by Imelda Marcos's collection of shoes, became a global spectacle of excess and corruption. Despite the oppression, the Filipino spirit of resistance endured. The assassination of opposition leader Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. in 1983 sparked outrage and galvanized public opposition to the regime. This set the stage for the People Power Revolution of 1986, a peaceful uprising that would change the nation's course. How did a bloodless revolution topple a dictator and inspire the world? The answer lies in the resilience of the Filipino people, whose fight for democracy became a defining moment in their history. In February 1986, the world watched as millions of Filipinos gathered on Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, EDSA, in Metro Manila. The People Power Revolution, also known as the EDSA Revolution, was a remarkable display of unity and courage. Ordinary citizens, from priests and nuns to students and professionals, stood side by side, demanding the end of Ferdinand Marcos's authoritarian rule. The events leading to EDSA were fueled by the assassination of Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr., a staunch critic of Marcos. His death in 1983 had ignited public outrage, and the fraudulent 1986 snap elections deepened the nation's resolve to demand change. Corazon Aquino, Ninoy's widow, emerged as the symbol of democracy and the people's choice for leadership. What made the revolution extraordinary was its peaceful nature. Despite the presence of heavily armed military forces, not a single shot was fired. Protesters brought flowers and food to soldiers, breaking down barriers with compassion. Did you know that many of these soldiers eventually defected, siding with the people instead of the regime? After 4 tense days, Marcos fled to Hawaii, and Cory Aquino became the country's first female president. The victory was a testament to the Filipino spirit, proving that unity and nonviolence could bring about monumental change. But democracy, once reclaimed, is not easily sustained. What challenges awaited the Philippines in its quest to rebuild after the revolution? The ousting of Ferdinand Marcos in 1986 marked the dawn of a new era for the Philippines. Under President Corazon Aquino, the country began the arduous process of rebuilding its democratic institutions. However, the challenges were immense, as decades of corruption and authoritarian rule had left deep scars on the nation. Cory Aquino's administration focused on restoring democratic processes, including drafting a new constitution in 1987. This document emphasized civil liberties, human rights, and checks on executive power. Yet, the road to stability was anything but smooth. Did you know that during her presidency, Aquino faced multiple coup attempts from factions within the military? These uprisings revealed lingering divisions within the country. Economically, the Philippines struggled to recover. The Marcos regime had left behind a staggering $26 billion in debt, burdening the new government. Land reform, a key issue for rural Filipinos, became a contentious topic. While some progress was made, it fell short of addressing widespread poverty and inequality. Despite these difficulties, the post-EDSA era brought hope and resilience. The Filipino people demonstrated a commitment to democracy, holding leaders accountable through elections and civic engagement. The restoration of freedom of speech and the press allowed for a more informed and active citizenry. The question remained: could the Philippines sustain its democratic momentum while addressing the deep-rooted issues of corruption, poverty, and inequality? The next chapter of this story would explore how modern challenges intersect with the legacies of the past. The post-EDSA years saw the Philippines navigating the complexities of democracy in a rapidly changing world. While the People Power Revolution inspired movements globally, the nation still faced internal challenges, particularly corruption and inequality. These issues, deeply rooted in the country's history, continued to shape its political and economic landscape. The administrations following Cory Aquino, Ramos, Estrada, Arroyo, and beyond, each faced public scrutiny. Did you know that President Joseph Estrada's presidency ended in another people power movement, EDSA II, due to allegations of corruption? This event underscored the people's determination to hold their leaders accountable. Despite the Philippines' vibrant democracy, systemic corruption often hindered progress. Billions were lost to misuse of public funds, limiting the government's ability to address poverty and improve infrastructure. Meanwhile, income inequality persisted, with wealth concentrated among a small elite while many Filipinos lived in poverty. Globalization brought new opportunities and challenges. The overseas Filipino worker, OFW, phenomenon became a cornerstone of the economy, as millions sought jobs abroad to provide for their families. Yet, this also led to a brain drain, with skilled professionals leaving the country. How does a nation reconcile its vibrant democratic ideals with these enduring struggles? The answer lies in the resilience and adaptability of its people. As the Philippines entered the 21st century, the question of how to balance tradition, progress, and equity remains central to its journey. The Philippines in the 21st century stands as a nation of contrasts. It's a land of breathtaking natural beauty and rich cultural heritage, yet it grapples with modern challenges such as climate change, political instability, and rapid urbanization. Through it all, the Filipino spirit of resilience shines. One of the most pressing issues the country faces is climate change. As an archipelago with over 7,600 islands, the Philippines is highly vulnerable to typhoons, rising sea levels, and other environmental disasters. Did you know that the country experiences an average of 20 typhoons annually? The devastating Typhoon Haiyan in 2013, one of the strongest ever recorded, highlighted the urgent need for global action on climate issues. The nation has also become a hub for digital innovation, with a booming outsourcing industry and a young, tech-savvy population. However, the digital divide remains a challenge, with rural areas often lacking access to the same opportunities as urban centers. Politically, the Philippines continues to navigate its democratic path. Leaders rise and fall, public debates rage, and the nation remains a hotbed of activism. Yet, questions persist. Can the country overcome its historical struggles to build a more equitable and sustainable future? The story of the Philippines is far from over. Its past offers lessons, its present presents challenges, and its future holds promise. What lies ahead for this dynamic nation? The answer, as always, lies in the enduring strength and hope of its people. As the Philippines continues its journey through history, one thing becomes clear: it is a nation defined by resilience. From the early civilizations that built complex societies to the modern struggles of independence, democracy, and globalization, the story of the Philippines is one of enduring hope and unyielding strength. This legacy is seen in the people themselves. The Filipino diaspora spans the globe, with over 12 million overseas workers contributing not just to their families, but also to the nations they serve. The world has come to admire the warmth, resourcefulness, and unwavering optimism of Filipinos, traits forged by centuries of challenges and triumphs. The Philippines also plays a crucial role in today's interconnected world. Strategically located, the nation is a cultural bridge between East and West, and its vibrant traditions continue to captivate people worldwide. From the colorful Ati-Atihan and Sinulog festivals to the solemnity of Holy Week rituals, Filipino culture is a testament to the richness of its heritage. Did you know that the Bayanihan spirit, or the communal unity to achieve a common goal, is a uniquely Filipino value that has persisted through generations? It's this spirit that carries the nation forward, even in the face of adversity. What can the world learn from the Philippines' story? It's a reminder that resilience, unity, and hope can overcome even the greatest obstacles. The tale of this nation is far from over, it continues to be written every day. The Philippines' story is one of courage, resilience, and hope, a reminder that history is not just about the past but also about the future we choose to create. As we look at the challenges and triumphs of this remarkable nation, we see a reflection of humanity's shared journey. The lessons of the Philippines resonate far beyond its borders. They remind us of the importance of unity in the face of division, of hope amid adversity, and of the enduring power of a people's spirit. But the story doesn't end here. The pages of history continue to turn, and the choices made today will shape the future for generations to come. What stories will define the next chapter of the Philippines and the world? How will the lessons of the past guide us through the uncertainties of the present? These are the questions that keep history alive and relevant. Thank you for joining us on this captivating journey through time. If the story of the Philippines has sparked your curiosity, stay with us here at the Great Chronicles as we continue to explore the fascinating connections between history and the modern world. Together, we'll uncover the stories that shape our lives, challenge our perspectives, and define our future. Don't forget to subscribe to the Great Chronicles for more thought-provoking content that brings the past to life in ways you've never imagined. Let's discover the untold stories of history and how they continue to influence our present and future.